Then we go to Manzanar, where the Japanese incarceration took place, and there were multiple sites, almost a dozen sites across the country, where basically Japanese people were told, you can take one one thing that you can carry, and then you're leaving your house, which
Yeah.
meant that they lost everything when they got back. The number of people that lost everything, which is why there's such a sizable Japanese American population, or there was a sizable Japanese American population in the Midwest and in Chicago and in other places, because when they went back after they were released from these concentration camps, everything that they knew was gone, right? And
Yeah. They
then you
lost
hear like
everything.
everything, and then you hear a few stories of like, oh no, but then they, their neighbors preserved it, or the people that worked at the
Yeah.
farms preserved, but like there's so many that lost,
Outliers. Yeah.
yeah, so many things. And so we went
Yeah.
to, when we went to Manzanar, what was crazy was, as soon as we walked in, this white family was walking out, and they said, "This is propaganda. None of this happened."
Wow.
And I remember just like, I mean, like that was like one of the most viral tweets I ever tweeted. But I remember like everyone picked up on it, and then even as I was sharing that, because like one of the students that were with us, and we had a group of probably like 25 to 30 people that ranged from the age of 6 to probably like 56, and so it was extremely rich, because you had kids experiencing the same thing as adults,
Mm.
and none of them had ever seen anything close to this. But
Wow.
like, even when you go to the site where people were
Mm.
incarcerated, there were people that visited and said they don't believe that this actually happened. They couldn't believe that the US would ever do anything like this. I mean, just
They refuse to believe
they
it. Like
refuse
it's
to believe.
yeah, yeah. And but Ray, it's because we don't teach history. Like,
Hmm.
when you go to Germany and you visit sites, there, the memorialization is not with the Nazis, the people that caused the harm or the oppression. It's with those who endured the harm,
Yeah.
and they tell their stories so that it's not repeated. We did a reconciliation tour in Rwanda, and we met with government officials. We went to a reconciliation village of people who are living together in community that were once torn apart by the atrocities of the genocide. And a part of their system to make sure that this is never repeated again, there's things that has to be done in their community. One is get rid of the those that are calling the tension. So they changed their language from their main language from French to English, and they had to throw out some of the troublemakers in their country, that were causing the divide. But one of the things that they do is they tell the story, and they have to tell the story. You have to say this is the genocide of the Tutsi, and because they don't want to just say genocide, because then that can say, people will say, well, there was a lot of Hutus that died
Hmm.
too. You know what I'm saying? Like, the
Hmm.
narrative changes. And that's what has happened here in America. The narratives have changed. Stories have been what people call whitewash, where you would not believe how many people, where we've stated history with facts, and people have said that didn't happen because my teacher told me. I posted something about Tulsa, Oklahoma,
Hmm.
and this lady came into my comments and said, this is not factual. This is a lie. Da, 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 da. I said, and I posted a video, and I said, well, tell this to the police officer of Tulsa who just talked about it, and they actually acknowledged this history that it actually happened. And I think we really, that fear of thinking that not talking about it is going to make it better or make it go away. Not talking about it makes it worse, because you have ignorant people that will repeat the same mistakes.
Hmm. And I think the problem is, like, some people are like, those mistakes were not mistakes, they were good. And they're like, that was a part of the plan. And I'm like, that's why they're trying to erase Martin Luther King Jr. and
Yeah.
Ruby
Yeah.
Bridges from the curriculum, because they're
Yes.
calling it whatever they're trying to call it when it's not
Yeah.
the thing that they're actually calling it. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
no, yeah, I'm like, we need to tell, we need to remember better. I mean, it's like a biblical concept,
Yes.
like all
It
throughout the scripture, God calls
is.
us to remember, remember, remember. And so,
I mean, we
yeah, and
just
so I
had
mean,
Resurrection Sunday. That was a what is that about? Remembrance.
that's exactly
We
right.
just had
All
we just
communion.
had history. We just had history. We just went through Lent. We just, you know what I'm saying, like Christmas, like and you know, you have all the Passover. All of those things are about remembrance. We know
Mhm.
how important it is to remember. Every year people celebrate their birthdays or they celebrate their
That's right.
anniversaries. What is that about? Remembrance.
Yes, that's right.
And
Say it
so
again.
it's about remembrance. So you have to get underneath that. Why is it that some things you don't want to remember and other things you do, and you're trying to say that all remembrance is bad? So we got to really ask the hard questions and name a thing. Like people, you know, don't want to remember because it makes them feel some kind of way. But whose feelings does that center when we
Mhm.
do that?
Mhm.
It's not centering the feelings of those who were afflicted and harmed by that system. If you don't like hearing about it, imagine what we felt like having to live it or having
Yeah,
to live it.
100%.
So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, 100% to that. And then like I think that's essentially that was the heartbeat of the trip, the reclaim trip through
Love
the
it.
ACC, where like we went from Manzanar to San Francisco, and we went to historic Chinese church. We went to the oldest Japanese church, and what most people don't know is that that Japanese church, when everyone was incarcerated and sent to the to concentration camps, uh,
Uh,
Howard Thurman's church met there.
wow.
And so it's there's so much richness and legacy and history,
Oh
and
my
then
goodness.
you're now in this like in a you're in you're within a congregation that is wrestling with how gentrification and the community changing around them is kind of forcing them to recalibrate how they do ministry, and how they kind of preserve the things that are beautiful about their legacy, but also kind of adapt to the reality. And I'm like, if these churches go away, I'm like, what a loss of a like a living memorial. And so my hope is that as and like it would like if you're ever like, hey, we want to do this, and like there's a
No,
group
no,
of
we're
people,
gonna
be
do
the
it. We're
bridge.
gonna do it.
Oh
We're
man,
gonna
that
do it.
yeah. We should
It's
totally
gonna be a
find a way to
thing
do it,
now.
and we'll go, and we'll take people with us, and we'll figure out how to make it all work. But
Yeah.
that would be, yeah, it's life changing. I mean, almost all there's one one young person went, I think 14 years old, realized that Asian Americans weren't all docile, went back to the
Wow.
school, and when they experienced kind of racial discrimination, felt boldness because they saw other Christians who had done the same in the past, and said, I'm
Wow.
actually proud. Like before, it wasn't, there wasn't pride to be, Asian American or
Uh-huh.
Korean American, but like after the trip, there was like this pride of being Asian American,
Yeah,
not because
yeah,
it's like better than anyone else, but because like there's a dignity to the history and to
yeah,
the resilience and to the experience
yes,
that
yeah,
we're never taught, and so yeah.
yeah. We got to do that. I think, yes, we need to figure out all the details. You guys heard it here first that my team is probably like screaming, yes, we're going to do it.